Welcome to Freedom Money, where we explore Bitcoin financial freedom and building in the Bitcoin space. Special guest today, Jake from AirBTC. Great to reconnect, Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.
One place I like to start with every guest and set the stage is your specific journey to Bitcoin. How did that evolve?
So in 2017, I guess before 2017, there was a great crash in 2009, 2000, the housing downturn and everything imploded. I think that set the tone for me becoming a Bitcoiner. I really didn't become a Bitcoiner until 2017, but I heard about it through friends in like 2013. I didn't make moves, which I'm kicking myself in the ass a little bit because of that.
I think
Uh,
everybody has that. That's the ego letting
yes,
go.
for sure. And Michael Saylor's like, "Oh, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve." I think that's bullshit, to be honest. I deserved it then. I still deserve it. But but no, I thought of myself as seeing the central banking system and how the government worked and how banking worked and lending and how there was such a control over our monetary system that kind of drew me to the eventuality of Bitcoin. And I think it's slowly but surely. I wasn't like 2 feet all the way in, sold everything for Bitcoin in 2017, but I slowly but surely have been just DCAing, and I think for the long term, it's what's easiest and what's best for me personally, and because at the end of the day, especially in the beginning, you couldn't really spend many. You can't spend your Bitcoin, but now it's so much easier to live on a Bitcoin standard. You can book travel, you can rent a house, you can pay your bills, you can buy gift cards. There's so many ways to use your Bitcoin as money, and that's why I'm here. I think of Bitcoin as money. It shouldn't just sit in a closet. Or in a safe somewhere or in your brain. It's got to constantly be changing hands, and we have to get more people to use it. And that's the only way that we will overcome so many of the hurdles that Bitcoin has had over the years.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was deeply kind of entrenched in the financial system, in the matrix itself, until like 2015, and then, did some stuff within the financial industry on my own after that. But yeah, you don't see the matrix when you are the matrix, it turns out. And so, people looking from the outside, I think, saw the importance of Bitcoin. I think you can see that in kind of the culture before the people in the matrix who seem to be catching on now. But a lot of what you said, I think, kind of ties into the company mission and spending Bitcoin. And I think you and I both see this very clearly, that Bitcoin is money. And like you touched on all these additional usability improvements, and I think that's just going to continue and accelerate. And so tell me about some of the challenges with the mission, and specifically getting people to spend Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's such a uphill battle. It's such a fight because large players in the Bitcoin game and on YouTube or on podcasts, they've everyone always says it's the best savings technology. It's savings technology. Just put it away. Don't use it. Don't even think about it. And one day it'll be worth $10 million. I think it's a horrible thing to get people to try and think this way, because the only way we get to 10 million is people using Bitcoin as money. In my personal opinion, it's not from Michael Saylor buying it or STRC or ETFs, but from our perspective, from AirBTC, it's very difficult to get people to understand why they should be using Bitcoin. And it's a hurdle. It really is. It's quite difficult because so many people have only thought of Bitcoin in this one way as the savings technology. So it is, it's detrimental to our business when Bitcoiners themselves don't want to spend Bitcoin, right? So it's definitely an uphill battle, and it's a fight worth fighting. And we're here to do it. I think education has a lot to do with what the next steps are for our business and for the Bitcoin community at large, because so many people have been disenfranchised by either the credit system or housing. I mean, people my age and younger, especially the younger kids, it's very hard for them to put up $100,000 down payment on a $500,000 house. I mean, the median house in America is like 400 and something thousand. You have to put 20% down. It's quite difficult. And as they print more money, there's going to be more and more effect to the upside of these assets. So home prices and value will increase in price over time. Just because they print more money.
As everybody gets poorer and prices continue to go up, and people may be scratching their head. I wrote. I mean, it's so interesting to hear you talk about it. There are so many use cases. I think again, the work I do on the credit side. I think Bitcoin has an obvious use case as collateral, a yield curve. This is money. This is a money that isn't printed and doesn't have a government. And it's better because of those two reasons. It's really simple and it's programmable in a lot of ways. And, I think once the usability comes along and the products like yours, it's, I think people adopt Bitcoin because it helps them. It's not, and so it's great that we can, build these services there. So they can take advantage of this better money, not just for hoarding.
Yeah, I agree. We have to solve some sort of real world problem, right? May that be the fees that they would experience on other sites, or the foreign exchange. There's so many things that come to mind when I think about your business or our business. But yeah, I think education has a big role, and the more podcasts you do, Kevin, and the more people understand your perspective, I think there's going to be it does the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. It's definitely a positive for everyone.
Well, thank you, and I'm super grateful for guests like you. So let's focus on AirBTC now. Have there been significant changes over the last year in terms of direction? Are you building new things? Where's it headed?
Yes, we've actually, for an arduous 6 months, we've been building our new state-of-the-art platform that has great UI, UX, and all of the things that you would expect from a top-tier platform. And we've done so with no outside funding, which is quite difficult, and it takes a long time because we have such a small team and no budget. But we're building this for the future. So we're actually bringing on a lot of hotels. So over the next, I think, month and a half, we're going to try and roll out our new platform. So we should be by midsummer, we should be delivering shipping product. And the idea is we're bringing on, I want to say, over 200,000 hotel rooms worldwide. So we're going to be in almost every country that you could imagine. And this has been a hurdle for us, before, origin story. When we first started, I flew to El Salvador and I was just knocking on doors like, hey, would you mind if we put your Airbnb or your booking.com, your short-term rental on our platform? And, slowly but surely we had 5 listings, and then 10 and 20 and then 100 and 700. And now we've gotten to a point where we need to offer more things in other places than Costa Rica and El Salvador and Colombia, which majority of our business is in, because most Bitcoiners seem to be traveling to these locations. But Bitcoiners live everywhere in the world. So we want to definitely make offerings for them all across the world. So this is going to help us do so to bring all these hotels onto our platform.
Amazing, amazing. Well, the challenges of building tech, you know, are never end. And so I'm curious about all the challenges you run into in term and one theme I think that continues to come up on pretty much every podcast is some type of regulatory slash legal angle. Do you run into any issues like that?
Yes, actually, just today, this morning, my partner and I got an email on our support, support at AirBTC from a law firm that is associated with Airbnb, and it's kind of a cease and desist, but it's a nicer cease and desist, um, uh, and yeah, it's one of those. I guess in a way, I'm kind of flattered that we're even on their radar, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm like, our names are completely different, and our missions are completely different. Our products completely different. Um, so it's scary because you're going up against like, I'm not saying we're going up against anyone, but if you look at the competition, if that's what they are, they've got $7 billion in debt, or they have billions of dollars worth of revenue a year, and we're just some little peanut. But yeah, we have run into some issues. Other than that, there's specific countries and cities in which you really can't have a short-term rental, and you have to have a permit in certain cases. So these kind of jurisdictions, we try to stay away from, but there's always somebody trying to gain the system. So we have to stay vigilant in many ways. But these type of things, I think they're just going to come up throughout time. I mean, over time, if you're doing something right, um, you'll get pushback, and you'll find out that maybe that wasn't the right move or whatever. I always I play a lot of pickleball. I have been playing recently,
Nice.
and there's this analogy where you get this direct feedback. If you make a really bad shot, like somebody's going to hit you in the face with the ball, or you're going to know right away. And I wish in the game of life or business that would happen more quickly, because we've made certain decisions 6 months or a year ago that just now are like, "Ooh, was that the right move?" So our philosophy is constantly changing on how we can be better. The best thing from our perspective is to do something quick, right, and to put as little money as possible, maximum amount of effort with a small amount of time, and try and ship something, a new idea. And if it doesn't work, we'll know really quickly if it doesn't work, and then okay, we abandon it, and we move on to the next thing. Because we're such a small boat in the water, we can make these quite quick turns, and our competitors have these large boats that make huge turns. So hopefully, we can continue to just stay afloat and continue to do business and outlast our competition, and really provide what Bitcoiners in general have needed for quite some time, is another way to utilize their Bitcoin in an everyday fashion. I mean, who wouldn't want to travel to Costa Rica, and go spend Bitcoin at a bar or a restaurant, and take their family to a excursion? I've been down to Costa Rica, and it's an amazing place. And I got to spend Bitcoin along the way, all up and down the coast, all the way from Playa Grande to Uvita. There was people that accepted Bitcoin. So I think we're very early, Kevin, and I think that the more that we push, the more that we stay alive, we're just going to gain market share year over year.
Yeah, I have that realization every day how early we are in this, and you were way earlier than I was to doing this. I mean, how long have you been operating AirBTC?
So it'll be It'll be 2 years in August.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So not that much longer. We're a year-ish since incorporation. So
Oh,
just,
nice.
yeah,
But the
looking.
idea of the company had been around for quite some time. It's, these things. I think a lot of people from the outside don't know how much work it is to actually get something from the ideation phase to actually like to
I think
shipping something.
Jake, I think I've spent half my day kind of explaining to people who have great ideas and want to contribute that that's what we're doing. It's just not there yet, right? Like it takes a while to hook up all these pieces and to, make everything seamless.
Yeah.
It looks easy, but it's really not.
So true.
So you have the orange rose colored glasses on. Are they orange or rose?
I think they're red. It's like those.
Are they?
It's the chroma.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, they block out all the blue light, so I can sleep like a baby.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So since you're a futurist and adopting all these things, what do you see as next in the space? And I'll make it pretty broad, and I think we can talk about this for a while.
Yeah, I think that next steps for the space in general, I think we're going to go through a lot of hardship. I think there's a lot of people that have rose-colored glasses, and they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin's at 1 million by the end of the year," or this or that. I think there's a lot of hurdles to overcome because the broader economy is linked to Bitcoin. Either we like it or we don't like it. It's happening. We have so much money is tied up in these ETFs. So many. You have to think every time there was a huge Bitcoin crash, you can link it to one specific downfall. FTX, right? There's the Mount Gox. There's there's always every time there's something that has happened, and I'm not sure if MSTR MicroStrategy is the next one because I literally listened to some of what Michael has been saying recently, and it scares me. I mean, he's like saying words like crypto, and like what they're doing about he said never sell the Bitcoin, and now they're going to sell Bitcoin to pay off these dividends. Um, it's kind of nerve wracking, to be honest, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, because we thought Michael was our guy, right? And I'm not saying he's not our guy, but I mean, is he still that same hero that we all need and want?
Well, Jake, I think first you're going to get a lot of hate for what you're saying because there's a lot of people who really are fanboys. And the only thing I'll say is, to me, it's an issue of centralization and decentralization. And you're pointing to all these failures, and to me, it's kind of this failure of the custody model, or sorry, centralized model. And I guess I see it other places. I see it with governments who can't balance their books, and sometimes there's corrupt institutions that have some bloat that wouldn't be allowed to persist in the private sector. And a lot of it gets glossed over by the printing of money. And, uh, you know, I think there's a lot of interest in MicroStrategy specifically that gets talked about on the financial innovation side. And it is interesting, and it's great that people through regulated capital markets are able to participate in, Bitcoin derivative products. But we're not even talking about Bitcoin and at this point, right? And
Right.
so it's I would just shape the discussion that way. The ETFs, MicroStrategy, the preferreds, those are not Bitcoin. That is not Bitcoin. And there's financial correlations, but some of the huge advantages of Bitcoin that seem to get glossed over in this is the self-custody aspect. And there's all kinds of financial incentives from the people giving that information of, oh, a little bit of Bitcoin is really what you need, when the reality, the financial reality is they're telling people in a 60-40 portfolio to put 40% of their money in government bonds, which is at this point junk debt that has no possibility of being repaid without the printing of huge amounts of money. And so, the people in the Bitcoin space, I think, get this, intuitively, but we're not dealing with the world and the financial realities anymore of, the post, like it's not pre 2010 anymore. These problems can't be solved financially. The math doesn't work. It's printing money is the only solution.
Right,
Anyway.
which will pump our bags. But the problem is, if you're a Bitcoiner, you know that Bitcoin self-custody is the epitome of what Bitcoin is. But a lot of people are in Bitcoin because they have MicroStrategy stock or ETFs at iBit or whatever, or Coinbase. Coinbase is it's a big red flag for me. It's like, do they really have all that Bitcoin that they say they have, right? And if they don't, that would be another FTX moment where not your keys, not your coins. Where are they? Where's the actual Bitcoin? I think.
But that's the question. So to me, that's the question, right? We're talking a lot about the security side and the bonds and strike and paying 10%, 11.5% yield. To me, it's a security company. Like if your job, if the value you're adding is the custody of the Bitcoin and you're outsourcing that to Coinbase, I don't understand the business.
Yeah, me either. And where's the audit, right? Like if they have the Bitcoin, just let's get a third party, let's audit everything, and then we'll know where it is, right?
But so I think the argument they would say is that we do, like, there are financial audits. There are, like, Ernst & Young.
Internal.
Yeah, it's like an accounting firm doing some type of financial audit. And again, the layers of risk, for listeners that I'll outline, it's not like, I don't think any of these people are bad actors, but there's risks in Coinbase, there's risks in your brokerage account, there's risks throughout the system that Bitcoin eliminates. And that's the value proposition of Bitcoin.
100%. So I think, like, from my perspective, I think that if anyone is going to take anything from this or anything that's ever happened, not your keys, not your cheese, right? You have to custody your own Bitcoin, and we have to go up against any bad actor or any government entity that wants to say self-custody is bad. I think eventually, that's what governments are going to try to push for, is that we're going to have to custody through a bank or, I think that's what the next push is going to be. And a lot of people, just like when they took everyone's gold, I think we're going to come to it'll come to a head at some point. But for now, I think everyone should do what they can to get every sat off of every exchange to custody that Bitcoin. Because even though Bitcoin loses half of its value overnight or whatever the number is, it's still 0.05 Bitcoin or whatever you have. That number is not going to change, right? And that's a fixed supply. So given enough time, it'll come back with whatever the USD paired price is, or I think it's hard for most people to swallow that, but you have to stay steadfast and really be in this long term. You can't be a short-sighted lettuce hand trader. You can't do that.
No, I think that's what it brings, is people with a bit of a long-term mindset and see, what's coming and what, is helpful for people going forward. Any other kind of specific things you see in the travel space?
Yeah, I think travel in general is taking kind of a downturn right now. The broader economy has effects in the travel space. The fuel prices of airlines and may that be cruise ships, whatever it is, anything that uses fuel, which is literally everyone, it's going to affect the travel industry. But we really probably won't see these effects quarter over quarter until maybe at the end of this year, because oil could go to $200 a barrel, right? But at the end of the day, it takes a long time for that to be realized because people book travel in advance. Let's say you want to go to Costa Rica, you're probably booking that 3 to 6 months in advance, and you already paid for it. So the people that are really going to take the hit is 6 months from now when they're making a new booking, and gas prices are, have stayed at the price they're at currently, which is not good for the overall travel industry. But I will say that I think experiences are something that travel can bring you to another place of enlightenment within your personal space, through your family. We're always stuck on these calls. Everyone's working remotely. You want to spend that actual time with your kids or family and go on these trips and experience a waterfall for yourself. You can't really do that from a photo. AI can't take you to that place. So I think more, you get given more time, people behind desks and on Zoom calls, they're going to want to get out and do things. So, I think overall travel will recover, given enough time. But for the short term, I think the overall industry is going to take kind of a hit.
Yeah. It touched on a lot of things there. You've been in the space for a few years. I'm going to change gears. What's your advice for builders in the space?
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I think the only thing is you just have to keep showing up to work. Everyone's going to make a mistake. Like, no one's perfect. I have a mentor that he's had 9 different businesses, and 7 of them have failed. But if he would have quit, right, the 5th time or the 6th time, he would never get to the place where he is now. And the guy's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. But I think this is like something that everyone needs to realize, and it's not just builders, but it's everyone. It's like all it really takes is determination. Like, if you think you can do it, you can do it, right? We're Bitcoiners. Like, we just do shit, right? And especially within the Bitcoin space, there's so many open holes and gaps. Like, the industry is like Swiss cheese, and so many people are like, oh, I'm a real estate guy, or I'm a balloon operator, or whatever. Like, but I'm a Bitcoiner too. So I want to align how I make my money with my skill set. And I think more and more people are doing this, and that's all it takes. Just determination, stay within what you know and how you can change the world with the knowledge that you've had, over your 30, 40 years, however long you've been on this earth. Just keep going at it, because you won't, if you fail and you quit and you just go back to McDonald's and go back on the fryer, it's like, that is not fulfilling. And maybe 10 years from now or 20, 30 years from now, you want to look back and go, well, maybe I should have tried again. Because that's the advice I've gotten, is just like, continue to grind, continue to do it. And people are going to say no. Like, they will. And people are going to be like, your product's shit. I hear it all the time. Your product's shit. It's so slow.
Do this, do that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I'm like, okay, cool. I want to hear everyone's opinion. It doesn't mean that all of them are valid, right? A lot of them are, right? A lot of them, hey, I get a lot of feedback, and I may not like it. Like, my ego may not like it, but at the end of the day, it's something that I needed to hear, right? To change for, to get that next customer in the door and to get them satisfied with the, the next iteration of what we're doing. Because if we're not trying to build every single day just a little bit better, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I think one thing you touched on there is that everybody has this contribution to make to Bitcoin. And I really see that, because, like, I've had the great fortune of meeting all these Bitcoiners, and a lot of people, it becomes a reflection if they're an artist or if they're, some aspect of their personality. Like I was a banker credit guy. I'm building financial applications on Bitcoin. I think because of these gaps that exist, there's all these opportunities, for what is eventually going to be a much better world, And I think the travel ties in. I think what you were saying before about kind of opening people's consciousness and awareness to different things, and being here, leaving Canada, seeing people think differently. The language, like there's so much just richness to life that the travel opens up. So I really appreciate you providing that in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I thank you so much for saying that. For us, we don't think of it as like we're winning because we get to provide this service. We think we're winning for Bitcoin, right? It's like we're putting Bitcoin on our back and we're going, hey, how can we benefit everyone else, right? So we bring some person from Canada to go down to Costa Rica. Cool. When you go and book your stay with us, you're going to get an email with a list of all the Bitcoin friendly places around you, right? We're going to give you a travel guide. We're going to show you how to travel like a Bitcoiner, how to hold yourself, what wallets to bring, should I bring a hot wallet? Should I bring Lightning? Where's the best places to go? All this information. And hopefully these people can come from all across the world and then distribute sats within the community and only create more value, because it's not just about that guy from Canada. It's about the lady who's selling tacos or pupusas or tamales, or the fruit guy. If they're accepting Bitcoin, then now they have the hardest money on the planet. Either they like it or they don't like it. They have an opportunity to learn, right? It's education is like, if I tell you, hey, this is how you fix a tire, I can tell you all day long, but if we're out there and we're actually going to change a tire together, right? What education is better than that? So I think getting people on site all across the world to spend Bitcoin is our mission, right? Is to make Bitcoin stronger and continue to grow day over day, because that's what the world needs. It needs the hardest money on the planet.
Solves a lot of problems. Jake, where can I send people to find you?
So we have an X account at AirBTC Online. We might actually have to change our name soon. I don't know. I'm going to be in meetings all week about that. But for now, it's AirBTC Online. We have a cool Twitter. We're always putting out dank memes. You can send me an email at jake@airbtc.online. I'm on Nostr at AirBTC Online. We're on Instagram, AirBTC Online. And I really appreciate your time, Kevin, because we had talked before, but I actually met you in person in El Salvador, and I was pleasantly surprised with what your product is and what you guys are doing. I think it's such a necessity, just like AirBTC is. Kadena is, definitely one of those things where people need to use it, and I think the hands-on experience is the best way to do that.
I really appreciate that, Jake. You were one of the first people I met in Bitcoin, like first builders. So I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, brother. Nice to see you.
Talk soon.
Thanks, man.
Take it easy.